You say that the other foreigners are stealing jobs that y'all don't want?
Personally, I would not consider it stealing the jobs because us South Africans, it depends. You get the lazy type of South Africans that don't want to work, they want to sit at home and do nothing the entire time. And then you get the South Africans that are willing to go out and work. So the foreigners, they take the jobs of the people that don't want to work. They don't want to provide for the families, they just want to sit at home and do nothing. Where the foreigners, they have a family that came to South Africa and they want to provide for their family. So personally, I don't think that foreigners steal jobs. They give us more opportunities. South Africans have a tendency of being cocky towards you.
I've noticed.
Yes. So they think, okay, because it's my country, you don't belong here. But foreigners, they humble themselves. They'll always have manners. There's no like back talking or talking back to the person that they're working for. They always humble. So if you give them like a job to do, it's like, okay, sir, I'll do it for you. If there's foreigners like there is currently in South Africa, yes, some of them, they are drug dealers and things, so that's affecting the economy a lot by putting bad substances into the economy. But on other senses, like the builders I talked about and the construction workers, they're helping South Africa. They're teaching our South African workers something, because our South African workers, they rather sit at home and not do anything than go out and seek a job.
All right, you guys, so on the way to my bus tour through Southern Africa, I ran into somebody that is from South Africa. We're on the way to Zeros. He's going somewhere else. And he said he was down an interview over just he think that South Africa is being helped or harmed by foreigners visiting in mass numbers. So what exactly is your background? Are you Dutch background or?
I'm originally Dutch background. So my parents have a Netherlands surname, and then I have so I was born and raised South Africa as well.
Okay, so how do you feel about foreigners living in South Africa?
Personally, living alongside of them, it's a bit weird, personal experiences, and then like work related, it's not bad because like our South African workers, some of them are lazy compared to the foreigners. So people from Botswana, Namibia, Mozambique, they tend to work a lot harder for less pay.
Okay, so that sounds like a very, it almost sounds like exactly the same thing that people in the United States say, that Americans are lazy, but Mexicans and Salvadorians and Venezuelans go to America and they outperform and steal the jobs, even though they're stealing jobs that nobody wants. Would you say that the other foreigners are stealing jobs that y'all don't want?
Personally, I would not consider it stealing the jobs because us South Africans, it depends. You get the lazy type of South Africans that don't want to work, they want to sit at home and do nothing the entire time. And then you get the South Africans that are willing to go out and work. So the foreigners, they take the jobs of the people that don't want to work. They don't want to provide for the families, they just want to sit at home and do nothing. Where the foreigners, they have a family that came to South Africa and they want to provide for their family. So personally, I don't think that foreigners steal jobs. They give us more opportunities.
So you think that foreigners are actually helping the economy in the long run for South Africa?
Yes. In my opinion, they're helping us out a lot because most of the builders in South Africa, construction workers and everything, they mostly are foreigners. A lot of the South Africans, they tend to work on farms or in offices in municipality buildings rather than going out and building new buildings and expanding South African.
Okay, I can see this. So do you think that there's been and I've actually experienced it one time, there's been cases of xenophobia, or people say that a lot about South Africa, even before I first came here. Do you think that South Africans and foreigners from anywhere in the world, do you think that it's easy for those foreigners to integrate? Basically, do you think that South Africans get along with foreigners quite well?
It depends. So a lot of foreigners, they drink along South African citizens. Like personally, I have a friend that's from Botswana. We drink, we go out together and everything. And they're better friends towards South Africans because they're a lot more humble. Mm-hmm. South Africans have a tendency of being cocky towards you.
I've noticed.
Yes. So they think, okay, because it's my country, you don't belong here. But foreigners, they humble themselves. they'll always have manners. There's no like back talking or talking back to the person that they're working for. They're always humble. So if you give them like a job to do, it's like, okay, sir, I'll do it for you without worries.
Okay, and do you think that the foreigners here for the tax system, do you think that they pay a fair share of taxes, or are they getting special treatment or the worst treatment?
Out of my experience of being raised in South Africa, as far as I know, foreigners that don't have a passport or anything, they don't pay taxes. So in that sense, I think it's unfair, because why should everyone else pay taxes? But on another scale, South Africans that have an ID card and a passport, they get SASSA. That's a monthly income thing that when you don't have a job, it's a grant fee basically. That's foreigners don't get at all. So I think in some senses they're unfair towards South Africans, but in other senses they're unfair to foreigners.
Okay, and do you think that South Africans are actually learning anything from foreigners? I mean, for example, whenever Africans come to America, they'll try to, and especially Black Americans, they'll try to say like, "Oh, you guys are lazy. You guys get all these free grants and loans," which we don't. It is a lot of opportunity there, and some of us are lazy, yes, but they get a special treatment, and they actually seem to get more opportunities, or they have more leverage sometimes than the locals. Do you think that in that case, I guess Black Americans could learn from those Africans and the other people that they could work harder and see the opportunities? Do you think that foreigners coming to South Africa, do you think that they're showing them something that maybe they're not seeing?
Yeah, so how I see it is, if there's foreigners like there is currently in South Africa, yes, some of them, they are drug dealers and things, so that's affecting the economy a lot by putting bad substances into the economy. But on other senses, like the builders I talked about and the construction workers, they're helping South Africa. They're teaching our South African workers something, because our South African workers, they rather sit at home and not do anything than go out and seek a job.
So that being said, all the stuff you said about foreigners in South Africa, do you think that if all the foreigners up and left tomorrow, what do you think would happen to the economy in South Africa?
In a sense of it, the economy would fall rapidly, but in a lot of other people's opinions is, no, if all foreigners go tomorrow, then South Africa is going to be a better place, because there's not going to be unfair jobs. But how I see it is, if they left, then we in a like standstill, because there's so many buildings that you can see around us and everything that are still unfinished, and there's still paint work needed and everything on that scene. So if foreigners left tomorrow, then everything just gets left like it is.
So would you say, what is one of the main problems you say having a influx of immigrants coming into South Africa? Is it crime, or is it more economical?
What I've noticed, the people that do crime and things, it's not foreigners actually.
Really?
It's South Africans.
Okay.
If you go look at most people in prisoners, like Cape Town's prison, the Cape Flats where all the prisoners are, they're mostly coloured. That's South African culture. But if you go look more at Pretoria prison and anywhere up away from the Cape, then it's mostly South African citizens. And it's mostly South African citizens that will literally just walk past you in these streets and kill you for your phone.
Really? So it's not, that type of crime is not exaggerated here?
No. Like Johannesburg, in Newville, they literally rob you. They'll gunpoint you, tell you to take off your shoes, and you'll give your phone and they'll just run away. And you'll be left there without a phone or shoes. I've experienced it. I've been a victim of it firsthand.
And how many... So do you think that you're more of a target because you're white, or...
No, not necessarily. They do it with everyone. They'll even do it with anyone. You'll be walking with your equipment and everything, and they'll just get a gun to your head and just give me everything you have. Whether it's cash, your wallet, your phone, anything that you can do. You can be an elderly lady and they'll have no respect towards you. So it's not about color, it's about who looks like an easy victim.
So yes, and it's usually that way. So would you say, like, we're headed to Zeerust right now? You said you know Zeerust, and would you say that it's more peaceful and safe there?
Not necessarily. You wouldn't get robbed like you would get here, there's a lot of farm murders going on in the northwest. So it's more Leiden, Lindispoort, Zwaardruggens, Zeerust, Grootmarico, Lichtenburg. Those places, they'll literally go onto the farm and they'll kill the white farmers there to take the land. So that's more the crime that's there than rather getting robbed.
So I remember earlier this year, Elon Musk brought to Donald Trump's attention about the white genocide thing. And there was kind of mixed reviews on if it was actually happening or not, or some of the evidence was falsified, they said. So what you're saying is would you say it's as bad enough to say it's a genocide or epidemic, or is it just something that happens
currently
here and there?
South Africa stands at over 2,000 white South African farmers that have gotten killed in the past, and it's still going on to this day. Even though Elon Musk brought it to Trump's attention, it's still happening. It's not going to end, because at the end of the day, they want the land, and they believe that the land that they are on, or we are farming on, is their land. So they will keep killing no matter what happens. Whether Julius Malema ends up in prison or not, it's going to keep happening, because everyone has a belief of, this is my land.
So do you think that it is possible for the white South Africans to return the land to all the black South Africans? Do you think they would be able to maintain it?
No. In personal beliefs, I grew up on the farm. That's why I'm going to Zwaardruggens. They won't be able to manage it. South African farmers, you won't get one farm that is not neat and tidy. The houses are nice and the farm plots are watered and they're growing crops amazing. If all South Africans, white South Africans, left and gave the farms to the blacks, that is what is happening now. Trump made a system to where South Africans, if they fear for their lives, they are able to go to America, and those farms get given to the black people. So no, they won't be able to manage it, because it would not prosper like it's prospering now.
So is that because of a lack of education? They haven't been trained with the skills to be able to maintain the farmland?
You see, sort of, but it's also that runs in your bloodline. So if your grandfather was a farmer and you decided to go, or your great-great-grandfather was a farmer, and your dad or your grandfather decided, no, I don't want to be a farmer anymore, you're going to lose that education that you have on farming. So us white South Africans, we usually pass the farm and the farming on to our sons and grandsons and all of those things. So the farm that we're going on now, it's my grandfather's farm. I'm in the will and testament to continue that legacy for him.
Okay, because I've noticed a similar narrative in Namibia, that the German descent farmers there say the same thing. And I know at Zimbabwe it was like that at one point too, before Rhodesia fell and everything, it actually became Zimbabwe. So you think that the entire southern Africa, let's just say, needs that group of white farmers to support the agricultural industry?
Yes. Personally, I do believe that, because it is a topic that we've touched and goed on in school, and we've talked along friends, we debated about it and everything in school. So we feel that if every white South African decided, I'm going to leave tomorrow, that there's going to be, the prices are going to go up insane, because it's going to be so hard to get a certain crop or a certain food that it's physically impossible to even survive anymore.
Okay, so I did a street interview, let's say 2 days ago in Johannesburg, and I was asking South Africans, do they think that the black South Africans depend on the white South Africans? And if the white South Africans left tomorrow, would they be able to maintain the entire economy? And they said, I couldn't get any white South Africans. This is the first time I've done one with an interview with a white South African. But they said that the only reason that they would be able to maintain the government and the economy, it's just the issue now is that the wealth and knowledge is not being shared. Would you say that that's true?
The thing is, if you are willing to learn as a black South African, you can learn from a white farmer. My grandfather specifically learns his workers about farm life, and he educates about them so they can continue. if something happens to us tomorrow, they can prosper. But there's also a lot of black South Africans that have farms that are neat and tidy, and they're prospering. And then you also get the white South African farmers that can't manage their farms. So it depends.
Last question I have for you is, I know that there are essentially white-only towns in South Africa. Based off everything that you've said today, what is your opinion on those towns, and do you think that they're absolutely necessary?
Personally, yes and no, because my yes is, if you go to Oranje and all of the only white South African towns, most of them have their own currency that's apart from the rand. They bake their own breads and everything. It's neat and tidy. There's no papers laying around. The roads aren't full of potholes or anything. You can go in there and it's going to look like Pretoria did in the old days. Pretoria in the old days was very neat. Like, you could eat off of the ground. That's how clean it was. So yes, in that sense, it's managing most of the white people that fear for their lives. And no, because why bring racism into the fact? Why separate yourself from black people when you can live among them?
Do you see there being a possibility of there being peace in between whites and blacks living in the same areas in South Africa?
Yes.
Where people don't feel the need to create white-only towns?
Yes, I feel personally like that. Zwartruggens and Zeerust, the whites live among the black people and the black live among the white. There's no separation. There's no, you white, you got privileges. And there's a word in Zulu or Tswana that says Mulungu. That means white boss. But that's also racist, because you can get a Mulungu that's black. You get a black boss, you get a white boss. And Zwartruggens and Zeerust, we live among each other. It's not like Oranje that they separate from each other and every other white towns that separate them from the blacks.
Okay, well, that's it. I appreciate you doing this interview. Guys, I just do these interviews with anybody from a neutral standpoint, just to give you guys a perspective on what people in South Africa actually think versus what the media will show and tell you. So thank you very much again. I appreciate your time.
No problem. It's good just giving an insight as in South African, because sometimes we don't have a voice or an opinion to deliver to the outside world.
Okay, well, thank you. Make sure y'all like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment on what you thought.